when you're living your authentic life, when you're doing the things you want to do, being the person you want to be without caring about what other people think through and through, that is the ultimate form of love to God. He created you in a very infinitely unique way. Don't ever be scared of what others may think. They do not have your intrinsic path. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Caresse. And today's episode is going to be more about myself and my own personal spiritual transformation journey that I promised you guys I was going to record and post and share with you, just to shed more light on my own journey and things I've went through. And I'm going to have pictures of my journal and really getting into the finer details of my story and my life over the past few years, and just how I've approached my spiritual journey. So, with that being said, I'm going to screen share some of the pictures I've took of pages in my journal throughout several of my podcast episodes, and some podcast episodes I've been guests on, I talk about my journaling. So you guys are going to see what I wrote. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to start with 2019. So this is the end of 2019, and I'm reflecting how 2019 went. So 2019 was it was a pivotal year for me, where I thought I wanted to pursue medical school again. I thought I wanted to become a doctor again. So that was, I guess, one of the ideas. Like, I felt stuck in my career at that particular point, and I'm like, God, what should I do? Like, how do I get out of this? I want progress. I want movement in my life, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. So 2019, I dedicated that year to trying to pursue medical school again. And like, I took a biochemistry course. I signed up for the MCAT course, and I applied to schools in Florida, and I didn't get accepted into any of them. And at the time, I'm like, it's either the decision between trying to pursue medicine again, or it's between just trying to figure out another route. So I guess you could say 2019 was a pivotal year. So as you can see, the first line I had was, in my mind I am the best. So I thought, in my mind I am the best, but my reality at the time didn't reflect. So I learned through this journey that your actions have to reflect what you believe in your mind. I achieved that through my biochemistry course and trying to pursue medicine. So although I didn't get accepted into medical school, I really saw the power of consistency and small habits, small micro habits each and every day. So with biochemistry, is one of those courses that everybody dreads. It's very, very complicated. You're learning all these microchemical, biological processes that go on in your body, and you have to have everything memorized. And the professor I had, like, he was a very detailed professor. So you needed to know, like, this is for the people who can relate to, who study these type of courses, but you need to know, like, the biological pathway if your body's too acidic or too alkaline, for example, and the changes that could have on a particular pathway, or knowing what can inhibit an enzyme or not, for example. So you need to have, like, all these things memorized. And 2019 was the year that I really became heads down, and I was like, okay, I'm really going to try this time. And I got an A in the biochemistry class, which was a big deal for me because I was working full time as well. And then making time between my weekends and evenings to really study for this course. And I was very, very happy that I was one of the few people, actually, and I was older too. So I was one of the few people to get an A in the class compared to all these other college students where all they do is study. So I was very happy for myself, especially because I haven't even touched the sciences in over like 10 years, for example. And I jumped right into it, and I got an A in the class on my first try. So I was very happy, and I saw the power of micro habits, micro, consistency each day when you are pursuing something. And even with the MCAT and everything, I got higher scores than my first go around, for example. So I was very happy with my performance, but I didn't get into medical school in 2019. But it was okay because, as you see, as I'm going down, I start talking about my second thoughts about medical school. I wanted to keep making money, and I wanted to make more money. I wanted to pay off my debts, and I wanted to thrive. I also wanted to start a side hustle, start building my brand, and tapping into my intrinsic potential, which was finance and not medicine. Still not finance, honestly. I'm not even working in finance. I'm working with technology, but whatever. I say that to say, like, just because you have a particular idea in your mind today doesn't mean it's that same particular idea tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe I might end up in finance. I don't know. But it wasn't medicine. And medicine was always just something, again, was just from my dad. He's the doctor in the family. It's not from me. Um, and then what else? So I realized that I got caught up in everything else instead of doing what is true to me. So being caught up, when you're in this phase of you don't know what you want to do with your life, you start asking other people like what their advice is. And you shouldn't do that. Don't ask other people what you should do. I mean, don't do that because everybody will tell you what they think you should do. And then you do it, and then you're like, oh my God, what is this? This is not for me, because it wasn't your idea, it was someone else's idea. So back in 2019, I wrote down my vision of myself and said, I have a vision of being a millionaire. I have a vision of being a public speaker. I have a vision of being a coach and a mentor. I have a vision of owning my own consulting firm. I have a vision of being a finance guru. My actions need to reflect this. I must do and learn along the way. So this was back in 2019. 2019, I had all these visions of myself. And none of that, it was just a vision. It was a vision I had. I had nothing in my life reflected any of that. At the time, I was probably making not that much because I wanted a side hustle. So I probably was making $80,000 a year. So bringing home like $4,000 a month or something like that. I wasn't public speaking anything. I wasn't coaching anything, like owning what? No, I wasn't doing any of this. So I'm emphasizing this just to show like you most likely do have some type of vision that you want for yourself or that you have for yourself. And I think the thing that's most daunting is that sometimes that vision just seems so far away and it doesn't seem like it's achievable at all. But I wrote this down and I had faith that it would be achievable. I just didn't know how or when. But I've always had that vision. And I think I've touched upon that on several of my podcasts as well. I've always had a vision of myself. So I'm happy that I journaled about it to show you guys what my mindset was like throughout different years. And when I first was thinking about doing this video, I thought I was going to start back in June of last year, because that's when my personal transformation, spiritual journey really started to kick up. But when I was going through my journal, I'm like, oh, wait, no, let me highlight this, because this was 2019, almost 6 years ago, almost now. And, where I am today, I knew I always would be, and now I'm going to fast forward a bit to last year. So this is my journal from last year, and total disclaimer, this is just my personal thoughts, of what I was feeling at the time. Me and my mom are in a much better space today. We're working on our things, all right? So this is not to bash anybody or anything, but this is just to show my journal, my thoughts, what I was going through at the time. And what really catapulted me looking at just different cycles I had in my life. So this was September 13th, 2023. Context at the time, I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I was very, very tired. I spent probably most of my free time on the phone with other people, listening to what they were going through, trying to be the support system for them. I felt that I was responsible for the outcome of their lives. I felt like I was obligated to them. I had to give them all my free time. For some reason, I interpreted that as being productive or something, or giving back or contributing. So that's just some context of what was going on in my life around this time. But so July 13th, 2023. So, and this was an example of just being brutally honest with myself, allowing myself to say the things I didn't want to say out loud, giving myself space to just be honest. Like, how can I be honest with other people if I can't be honest with myself? And so at the time, I think I was just tired of just feeling drained, just tired of feeling like no one is pouring into me, like I'm pouring into all these people. Why is no one pouring into me? And so, I wrote deep down, I don't want a relationship with my mom. That was a very, very hard thing for me to say to myself because it's against all of the things I was taught as a kid, honor your mother and your father. And I just allowed my say that. And then I go on to say, I've tried my whole life to please her and be good enough and feel appreciated. She makes me feel torn inside because, and I didn't even continue, but I have a summary sentiment that it's one thing if you make bad decisions, but treat me good. It's another thing when you make bad decisions and treat me not that great and then ask for my help. And then I go on to say this has been the fundamental structure of my relationship with my mom. It's a roller coaster. Then I went on to write out each step of that cycle. So, first, it started pointing out how I'm not good enough, i.e., I don't have a good enough relationship with God, I don't honor you, etc. I then pull myself away because I don't like how, those type of statements would make me feel. So it's like, why should I interact with you? So I'll pull myself away. Then she would call me crying, saying that she would want a relationship with me and act as if she really did want a relationship with me. But then, I've interpreted like not really, Then I would let my guard down and then she would ask me for help. I help. And then it would go back to step one where she's criticizing me about something. So I was tired of that cycle. And then I went even deeper. And on the next page, it says acting as if you want a relationship. So I wrote out what that looked like. So she would call me frequently, but never take the time to learn about my life. All she would do is talk about herself. And like, I never received a birthday present from her. Like, all she did was just take my birthday money from me. And this was the stuff that my dad used to, the money my dad used to send to me, and then guilt trip me doing what she wanted me to do, but not what was best for me. So it was like, that's just like an example of how I interpreted how she was acting as if she wanted a relationship with me. But it always just felt one sided and never felt like a reciprocal mother daughter type of relationship. And then, throughout my life, in the next section, it says, for most of my life, other people took more care of me than you, but you're the one who uses me the most. I don't want a relationship with you anymore. Goodbye. I love you, but goodbye. So this was kind of like a goodbye letter I wrote to my mom in my journal just to get out my real thoughts, my real feelings at the time. And I did have a conversation with her and it didn't go well. So we stopped speaking for a couple months. And we had another conversation. It still was kind of the same thing, didn't go well. We didn't speak for a couple of months. I think we probably had our most impactful conversation maybe a few months ago this year. I know that my mom, she's been going on her own journey as well. And, there's just certain cultural influences. So my background's Jamaican. My parents are from Jamaica. So it's just some cultural influences that also kind of, influence her behavior and how she treated me based off how she was treated from my grandmother, those type of things. So, it's very a generational thing. So I have a lot more compassion and understanding towards my mom. However, I still do have my boundaries so that, if I feel like it's not time to talk, it's not time to talk. And we have those, I guess you could say, safe words in place now until we can get to a point where we can communicate openly and honestly with each other. And I don't feel like I'm getting back into this cycle. But this was This was a pivotal moment for me because I finally admitted something to myself that I was scared to admit my whole life because I didn't want to be a bad Christian and upset God and stuff like that and go to hell. So this was a big honest moment for myself. And then after that, I think I felt and brought this to God and prayer, meditation, reading the Bible, and also cutting out music during this time after writing this letter to myself. I stopped listening to popular music. I would only listen to meditative music, classical music, or Christian music. Not like the new stuff that's out today. It's like the old school Christian music that I grew up with that I really, really liked. That is the music that I listened to. I also stopped being so much on social media. Oh, no, no. It's not that I didn't stop being on social media. I started a new account where I would just follow just a few accounts that were just, spiritually based, Christian based, things of that nature, science related. Just because I know that I needed to filter out information from my brain so that I had space for new information. Let's see. I'm trying to see what's on the next one. Okay. All right. So then the next journal page I have is from November. So that's a bit between September and November. So prior to getting into my November journal entry, the things that took place from July, August, September, October, it was a couple of items. One, I learned how to meditate in the way that works for me. So I learned how to do that at the end of June. And so end of July. So end of July and all of August, I'm just focusing on meditation because I'm like, wow, it's bringing me so much calmness and peace and clarity as well. And then at the end of August, we went to a conference. So me and my husband, we went to a conference, one of those motivational conferences, and it was life changing. It was really, really life changing. I think I've touched upon it on a couple of other episodes, but it was life changing in the way that I started to believe in myself again because of some of the events that took place at that conference. So like one of like the opening day, you have like this whole workbook and everything like that, and you fill in like, why are you here, what are you looking to get out of the conference, and then the speaker opened up the floor to the audience to say what their answer was. And at the time, like, I didn't speak in front of anybody. Like, most I would speak is for work at meetings, leading meetings, but I never spoke up in front of large crowds. Like, the thought of that would make my heart pound and my palms sweat. But for whatever reason, I felt the urge to get up, raise my hand, and speak. And so when I spoke, like, what one of my intentions are was, growing the number one consulting firm type of thing. That's when later on, like, all of his people were trying to find me and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh my God, like, there's something there. So I thought I was going to start working with this guy immediately. So then like, it was Labor Day weekend, I quit my job, just went cold turkey, like, quit it, like, I'm going to work with this guy, like, whatever. And like, had told people in my life that I'm going dark because I thought, like, oh my God, my life's about to change. This guy raised me up, and oh my God, like, basically thinking that someone else is gonna open up doors for me. And yes, that took place August, Labor Day weekend, August last year. And after that, like, after all the hype from the conference calms down, I just noticed, I'm like, huh, things are really peaceful because I'm not talking to people anymore. I'm not working, like, I'm just by myself. And I had time to process my life, what I was doing, how I was feeling, just process. And I was so overextended so much that I did not have time myself. Like, I forgot my life. I had forgotten memories. Like, there'd be so many times if I was hanging out with people, they're like, "Oh, you remember when we did this?" No, I don't remember. Just because, like, I was carrying so much of everybody else's burdens and just forgetting myself. I literally forgot my life. So when I was dark, I was like, wow, this feeling is amazing. Like just being with myself and not feeling stressed out and just being a person can process my feelings. I can process all of this. And it was an amazing feeling. I'm like, wow, I never want to lose this feeling of peace. And I go dark. I had told my best friend at the time, like I'm going dark and everything. And the dynamic like of my relationship with her where I felt like I was a lot of my time to her. I felt like I was dedicating a lot of my emotions to her. I felt like I was dedicating all of me to her. Mind you, I'm married and I basically would give the bare minimum to my marriage just because I felt responsible for her as well. So I also told her I was going dark. And then during that month of September last year, I've had other friends tell me like they're going dark as well. And I respected that, right? Like I was the type of person, like, however you want to be supported, that's how I try to support you. And so then I noticed during this time, I'm like my best friend, like I told her I was going dark, but like I didn't even get like, hey, are you okay? How's everything going? Like, not, I didn't get a text at all or anything, like no check in or anything. Not that I was expecting it. I wasn't expecting it, but I was just like reflecting all the times where she told me certain things and I would not listen to her and go make sure she was okay, just because like and it's still something I'm processing as well, like still processing the how things ended. And maybe I am the villain in it, I don't know. But I just thought like at least a text to see how I'm doing. Like even though I did say I'm going dark, but this was somebody I would spend every day with. So like with not even, hey, are you okay? Or anything like that. I just was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So that was like the month of September where things were just like settling and I'm finally having time for myself. And then October was my birthday month and we went to Egypt and Italy and we had an amazing time. And then when we came back, that's when I started helping my husband with his business. And, we had a major turnaround that. And so this leads me to November of the journal entry. And I really struggled with perfectionism and how I would treat myself. I was my harshest critic. I was always criticizing everything I did. And so, like, I had to tell myself, I had to lie to myself, and write out ways of being kind to myself. So I had to start saying nice things to myself because I didn't do that before. So here you have, be kind to yourself. You're doing a great job. You can build your own software. You can learn Python. You can get your own leads. People will be receptive to you. You can close multi-million dollar contracts. You can get large enterprise clients. You can build efficient processes. You can gain large market share for both strategy and tech consulting. Magazines will reach out to you for interviews. Strategy and tech events will reach out to you to speak. Those are so none of that stuff was going on in my life at the time, but these were some of my intentions and I had to be nice to myself and I wrote it out. Fast forward to today, like I am working on a software, with a couple of, a couple of people I used to work with. I'm building my business. Like all these different things are in the works. But at the time, like last year, November, I didn't have anything going on, but I was like, let me speak nice to myself. Let me be nice to myself. And then something finally clicked a bit December where I finally felt free. I felt free from being personally responsible for the outcome of someone else's life. I finally have peace. No more thinking about how to escape. That was always a theme in my life. I always wanted to escape something. I have my own space on all aspects of life. I'm one of the freest humans on this planet. I accomplished freedom this year, which is true. I accomplished that internal freedom that I always wanted since a kid. And then I have another journal entry from the last year of December, for the last day of December last year. And this is where I'm speaking more about my intentions. So I write out like, what does an ideal life look like? So I wake up naturally around 7 a.m., feeling so happy, looking forward to the day ahead. I'm emphasizing this particular sentence. I'm describing the feelings that I have on each day that I would like in my life. All right. So my body feels good and flexible with a couple of stretches. Cause again, like with all the stress that I used to be under, I was very, very tight. I still am. I'm still, I still have to stretch. I still feel some pain in my body. But it does get better when I stretch. Then I wrote joyful meditation, delicious tea, smiling and loving the taste. I enjoy getting ready in the morning, smiling at myself in the mirror. The work I do excites me so much on the inside. I enjoy what I do through and through. I really love my podcast. So this was before I even launched. I was in the process of recording terrible videos, but this is what I wrote, right? I really love my podcast. I didn't even start my channel yet. So I'm so intentionally happy every day, all day. I have so money flowing to me that I barely think about money. I use money to grow things. I have wonderful evenings with husband, delicious dinner, relaxing evening, and fall asleep naturally. Get wonderful rest, and my days are full of light. So that was the intention that I had for 2024 and beyond. And I can say, like, yeah, this is how I feel like on a regular basis in my life now. I wake up constantly without the alarm. I wake up before the alarm. I love what I'm doing every single day. Every single day is a new learning experience. I'm loving the people I'm meeting, the conversations I'm having. Like, I'm really, really loving, like, this intention I wrote out. I'm experiencing it right now. Right. So that was December. And then flipping over back to my next journal entry, this is where I start. I think I got into the phase of really intense introspection about my life. So previously, I was so focused on negative things that occurred, all the hurt, pain, everything I went through. And so then I'm like, I know that not all my life was bad. There were some good times. So this was February 11th, 2024, how far I've evolved. And so this is where I kind of chunk things out by age group. So the first one was from age 8 to 17. So at age 8, that's when my mom got remarried to my first stepfather. And that's when, like, all of my escapism kind of started, because living with an alcoholic is not pleasant. So I wanted to escape. I didn't want to live with my mom. I wanted to live with my dad. I wanted new clothes. We couldn't afford new clothes. The only times I got new clothes was when I saw my dad, and if I was lucky, I saw him maybe 4 times a year, and if not, then I would see him once a year. I always wanted to learn how to play the piano. I wrote down escapism again. I wanted a loving family. I wanted support, someone who would show up for me. There were many times in my childhood, like if I had a concert at school, for example, and I look out in the crowd, I would never see my parents. So like I wanted someone who would show up for me. I wanted to have spending money. My school accomplishments made me feel validated. So that's when, like, if I got an A on my report card, that's when my dad would give me money, for example, or I would get some type of gift. And then overall, I just wanted love, support, and financial comfort. Then from age 18 to 21, I wanted to get better grades for pre-med. So like, again, it's like one of those things that because like medical school wasn't necessarily for me, it was like a struggle with my grades. I think I got like an A in organic chemistry, but I was pretty much a B pre-med student. Like I would get B's on everything. And so again, like I used school grades to feel validated. It's like, and you know, I would feel insecure to people who got better grades than me. My school accomplishments validated my self-worth. And I wanted a healthy, loved, and I felt financially secure because I lived with my dad at the time. So I didn't feel like I was, on the borderline of being in poverty. But so overall, from ages 18 to 21, I wanted to feel loved, and I wanted to feel mentally secure. So financially, I felt okay, but I didn't feel much love during that time in my life. I went through horrible relationships, and I wanted to feel mentally secure because I went through a lot of emotional manipulation as well. Then from age 22 to 25, this is when I'm working, and I wanted to feel validated by promotions or salary increases. I wanted a healthy relationship. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted more financial security to escape, sorry, auntie, to escape my aunt and feel accepted by my dad for my life choices. So again, still the theme of wanting, like, a lot of acceptance and validations from other people. And then you still have some escapism there as well. And then I met my husband at the age of 25. But just because I met my husband at age 25 didn't mean that everything was peachy after that. There were still some more things that I had to go through. So from age 26, that's where I struggled with my weight. So, with transitioning into being married, different lifestyle, all this stuff, like I started gaining weight and I didn't know how to lose it. I tried all these different fad diets, everything. So that became the forefront of my mind. For whatever reason, I had to go through self-esteem issues, like on a major scale. So, like, I wanted to be skinny again. I had low self-image. I had insecure attachments. I still wanted to make more money, financial security to feel validated. I wanted to have the perfect life displayed, like on social media. And I wanted to prove to people, again, people who don't worry about me, that I'm doing just as good as them to feel validated. Like, it's like my whole life I was kind of trying to feel validated. Oh my God. But like, I just wanted to show this to paint like the overall timeline of my life and just some of the themes that I had to that kept occurring during each. Again, like, this is my deep introspection to see what are the themes, what are the patterns, what are everything that I've gone through that just keeps happening again and again, and what type of beliefs do I need to address in order to break those cycles, break those habits. Let's see. So this is where I'm getting into analyzing my behaviors, right? So before it was beliefs, now it's behaviors. And again, those go hand in hand because your beliefs will drive your behaviors, and your behaviors, reinforce some of your beliefs. So some of the tendencies I had, this was in April 2024, that I float into my activities. If something else catches my attention, I do that first. I tend to not stick to a schedule I set for myself. Something else comes up and I don't remember what that something else is. I feel tired to work on my hobbies, but push for work. What is it? I need to structure my week so that I get enough sleep and wake up early so I can start my day by 9 a.m. And then there's this other book I was reading called Systemology or something like that. And it was talking about like different archetypes, like you have a child archetype, an adult archetype, or a teenager archetype. And then I think there's some other stuff in there too. I'm messing up, but anyways, what I journaled, what I figured out is the different types of internal forces that were battling against each other were from my childhood, my teenage years, and then my adults, right? So my childhood, I'm just tired because I'm trying to escape and survive and all this stuff, and I want rest and comfort. And then the driven adult wants to create the dream life, and then you have the hurt teenager, so that's all the self-doubt and everything like that. So I'm actually very happy that I wrote about like just my tendencies, because lo and behold, mind you, this is after I already started my podcast, but a couple episodes later, I had someone on my show just describing some of the symptoms of like ADHD. And so I told him like what I was struggling with, because I was observing my behavior and some of the resistances I had when it comes to certain activities. And so he was like, oh, that sounds like ADHD. I'm like, what the heck? I didn't believe him at the time, but then I really looked into it. I'm like, oh. So now identifying that these tendencies were driven from ADHD, I'm like, oh my God, okay. Like now I can be more intentional about certain things that are driving my behavior. Like, I don't have to act on all the impulses. I can write it down and circle back to it later, for example. And then even with that, like growing up Christian, I thought all these impulses, like I have to switch to another activity immediately. I thought that was God telling me to do stuff, but no, it was ADHD telling me to do stuff. So, so if you feel like God is making you switch from everything from moment to moment, it's ADHD, and I think God is more smooth moving. If you just look at how the Earth was created and stuff like that. I mean, there is some chaos. Don't get me wrong, but it's more of an evolutionary process instead of impulsive and chaotic. And there's nothing that, you know what, let's scratch all of that. Everybody's life is different, so who knows? For my life, it wasn't God talking, it was ADHD. That's another introspection. And then here, this is where you can see my mind starts to shift. I'm out of so much day-to-day feelings and emotions, but more so taking a step back and being super introspective. So like, for example, August 8th, that was, last month. A concept that came to mind is that when you express that what you are, so when you're who you are intrinsically, when you're living your authentic life, when you're doing the things you want to do, being the person you want to be without caring about what other people think, through and through, that is the ultimate form of love to God. He created you in a very infinitely unique way. Don't ever be scared of what others may think. They do not have your intrinsic path. God intended me. God brought me into existence. God willed me into existence. So now you can kind of see my mindset shift where I'm incredibly grateful just to be alive because I'm here. There were times there was a time I had a car accident. I was 21 years old and I could have died. My car got completely totaled. I smashed into a tree and a pole in the hills of Stony Brook, Long Island. And those who are familiar with that area, the roads are narrow. You're on a really elevated point. I don't want to say it's a mountain, but it's pretty hilly. And it's like one of those things that if you go the wrong direction on the road and you veer off and you're not on the road anymore and you're heading towards the trees, there's a high chance you're gonna die, I thought I was gonna die that day. It's like one of the weirdest feelings where you know what your last thoughts are. You know what your last thoughts are. And my last thought was, this is it. Like I really thought I was gonna die when I had my car crash. This was back in 2011. But I didn't die and I'm still here. And I'm finally doing all the things that I had a vision of doing. And I was able to start doing those things because I was able to finally overcome the cycles that were going on in my life through God's grace and through his love, and giving the insights of what I need to do to transcend certain things. So there were also a lot of books that I was reading along this journey. The first one was Power versus Force. So I read actually a lot of books by Dr. David R. Hawkins. So Power versus Force was one of them. And then he has a whole bunch of other books. Another one was called Letting Go. The other one is called The Discovery of the Presence of God. Then I was also really into Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. It gets you more aware of your energy centers in your body, becoming more in tune with your body, and meditation, and kind of bridges the gap between all these different aspects of your life. I really like his work. It's helped me a lot. So those are just a couple of books that I read along my journey, but I think I've always been on a spiritual journey, but it just really, really, really got intense last year. So if you have questions, or I don't know, I don't really do any type of coaching or anything like that. But if you guys want coaching, I can set something up that's, that would make sense. Or if you want any more information or anything like that for your own journey, just let me know. I'm here. Everyone's journey is unique, but I'm learning that there's lots of central similar themes that people go through. So yeah, just let me know. I'm here. But that is the nitty gritty of my spiritual journey. So More to come. I also love doing more personal videos. There's a lot of overlapping elements in my life that are starting to converge. So I also want to start sharing more about that. If you hear my cat, I'm sorry. She is attached to my dog and he's on a walk. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.